So, hello, good evening, and welcome to this evening's presentation with My Career Story Live. My name's Steve, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm the host of My Career Story podcast that's out each week and explores the inspirational career stories and the people behind them. One of which is the lovely Kathy Caprino, who joins me today. Hello, Kathy.
Hello, Steve. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You're more than welcome. I am thrilled to have you with me this evening. So, those of you that may be listening to the podcast and seen the episodes that have gone out so far, Kathy was actually my first guest all the way back in the summer of 2019. Yeah, exactly.
That feels like
Um,
5 years ago already.
it does. And Kathy has her own podcast, Finding Brave, which I'm sure she's going to talk about in her presentation today. But one of the reasons that I started the podcast was, in fact, after listening to Kathy's podcast. So I'm really excited that we've gone full circle and got you here again for a second time. But also for you to share your wisdom and talk about everything that you've learned and pulled into your new book as well. So without further ado, I will go through just some quick logistics for this evening. So we've got 75 minutes together, so that's about an hour of presenting from Kathy, and then there's time for Q&A at the end. Kathy's going to be running the show, and I'm going to be managing the tech behind the scenes. So if you do find that you're having any technical difficulties, then hit them in the chat box, please. And then if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, pop them in the Q&A box. If I think that they're absolutely vital to throw into the mix whilst Kathy's talking, I'm going to challenge her and throw them in, or we'll leave them to the end where she can answer them for you as well too. So without further ado, Kathy, it's over to you.
Okie dokes. Thank you again. Very excited. Now let's make sure you can see the slides. Does that look good?
Yeah, that looks good to me.
Okay, we are talking about the most powerful you. Close your power gaps and build your best career. So let's just dive in. I've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to be speaking very fast, but I'm hoping, Steve, that the deck will be available for people who want to look at that at a later point. So hopefully you don't
Absolutely.
have to. Great. Kill yourself taking notes. So here we are. We are going to be talking about, first of all, what is power? And why do we need more of it to build happy careers? Also, we're going to be talking about the 7 most damaging power gaps that professionals face that keep them from thriving at the highest level. And I'm going to get into a little bit about gender and how these gaps are different between men and women. But we'll get there. And we're going to be talking about the antidote to those gaps, 5 brave pathways to career bliss. And I think what's on everyone's mind, Steve and I were talking about goals and goal settings. Some of us are really just trying to get through right now. So the question is, how do I succeed even in really tough times like these? So we're going to be talking all about it. So let me just give you a little bit of context about why I'm sitting here doing what I do and where this information comes from. So briefly, I had an 18-year corporate career in marketing and publishing. On the outside, it was successful. On the inside, it was not. It was bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. And when I hit 40, which was 20 years ago, transparently speaking, those bumps turned into full-blown crises. I faced gender bias, sexual harassment. I faced toxic colleagues, narcissistic bosses, chronic illness. I had an infection of my trachea, of all things, every 3 months for 4 years. Zero work life balance. My kids were little then, and I just wasn't in the fabric of their life. It's basically everything you hear about that women are struggling with and men too, but you don't think it's going to happen to you. And honestly, when those crises hit, I knew I needed a change. And the worst crisis was waking up every day feeling like, is this the work I'm going to be doing with my life? This is it, because it felt so lacking in meaning and contribution. But the thing is, I didn't know what to do about it. I saw a career counselor, saw a therapist. The career counselor back then, I don't think there were great career coaches, to be honest, 20 years ago, but he gave me a battery of assessment tests. It cost me $1,000. And he came out and said, well, looks good. It looks like you're in the right field for yourself given the test results. And I just wanted to cry. I felt so lost. I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing. Instead, I bought a bigger home, more affluent area, larger financial burdens. And 1 month after moving into that home was 9/11. And a month later, I was laid off in a way that was so brutal to my ego, to my self esteem, to my confidence that I snapped. I had what I call a breakdown moment. And I won't go into, all the steps. You can read that in my book, Most Powerful You. But I was sitting in my therapist's office. I will share this. And he said, "Look, I know this looks like the worst crisis you've ever faced, but from where I sit, it's the first moment you can choose who you want to be in the world. Now, who do you want to be?" And I blurted out, "I want to be you." And he said, "What does that mean to you?" And I said, "I want to help people, not hurt people and be hurt." From that conversation, that one, and this is why coming to webinars and getting training, we may know about 90% of it, but if you just get one idea, it can truly change your whole trajectory. From that conversation, I became a marriage and family therapist and then a coach. So for 15 years, I've been working with professional women, mid to high level women, thousands around the world. I have worked with men as well. I will say my sweet spot is what women are going through, but I believe that every man on this call who listens will get something important because these challenges relate to men as well. And if you lead women, it's really important that you understand this as well. So, what happened a few years ago is I said, what is going on that no matter where these people are from, wherever the country is, the socioeconomic level, the education level, how much money they make, whatever their role is, whatever their field, why is it that these women and men are bringing the same challenges over and over and over? What is happening here? So I pulled the viewfinder back and said, I'm going to do an in-depth dive. And this is what I see and what emerged from that. First of all, why do these people come for help? First of all, they feel unable to work, lead, and communicate and grow in the way they want to. They don't feel recognized. They don't feel valued. They feel like they're meant for something bigger and better, but they don't know how to get it. They aren't advancing. They aren't receiving the compensation they deserve, or they feel that what they're doing is just not right somehow. It's not purposeful. It's not good. They want to be doing something good in the world or meaningful. Or they're just tired of the toxicity and the struggle. They're just tired of it. They've had it. And in the end, they want more, different, and better, like I did, but they have no idea how to get it. Okay. Really, I think it was Sean Acor, who's a positive psychology expert. He told me, and he shares that people are happiest when they are moving forward to their highest potential. That's what happiness feels like. And these people, these thousands and thousands of people, including what I went through, don't feel like they're doing that. So, in looking at hundreds of interviews with people, my course members, my clients, this is what I saw was missing. These two things: bravery to recognize and face head on what isn't working, and to take accountability for that. It's funny, I just posted a meme or a image on my LinkedIn profile about accountability. Bravery. But bravery isn't enough. What we need is power, internal and external power, to act with influence and impact on your own behalf, and to advocate for yourself and for others, and really become the true author and leader of your life. These are the two things that are missing. So, just briefly, why do we need power? A lot of women have said, don't want power. And I say, why don't you want power? And they said, because it's abused today. And we see it, don't we? I live in the US. There was a heck of a lot of abuse of power every day, it seemed, all around us. And I think you probably know what I mean. And maybe you see it wherever you're calling from. But the problem is we can't shun power. Power is essential. If you want a thrilling life, if you want a thrilling, impactful career, you can't shun power. But I'm talking about a certain kind of power, the power to do something, not the power over someone, right? It's the ability to accomplish, to create, to manifest. It's strength to become a force for good. It's influence to make the difference you want to. and it's authority in your career, in the business that you run as an entrepreneur. It's authority to lead and work and partner with the people that you want to and say no to what you don't want to. And it's also self-trust. You need power to believe in yourself, truly. If you're weak, if you're lacking in confidence, if you don't trust yourself, you're going to falter. You're going to struggle. But it's important to remember power does not have to be harsh or angry or abusive or hurtful. I'm not going for that kind of power. Power can be gentle. So great. What does it feel like to be brave and powerful? It does a lot of things that if we're not, they can't happen. First, you engage in meaningful, rewarding work and say no to the work that is not aligned with your values. You earn the respect and recognition, and yes, the money that you deserve. You leverage your natural talents, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. There's a big difference between those skills that you have that you've worked so hard to hone, but they're not your natural gifts. The happiest people and the happiest careers are leveraging your natural talents, what comes easy to you. So we're going to talk about that. You're also able to build heart-connected relationships. I mean, we all know what it's like to be in relationships with people that don't feel mutually beneficial, don't feel from the heart and the soul. When you're brave and powerful, you chuck those people out of your sphere and you're connecting with people like Steve that you feel a heart connection to. And you lose your fear of vulnerability. And in the end, you're uplifting others as you rise. So basically, being more brave and more powerful helps you advocate, serve, release the pain and trauma from the past, share your thought leadership. You're all brilliant. Everyone on the planet has special gifts and talents and abilities that the world needs. But if we're scared to share them because someone's going to laugh or someone's going to say we're stupid, you're depriving not only yourself of sharing your thought leadership, but the world. And this is how we reach our highest potential. So, what I want to look at today with you are what I have found are the 7 most damaging power gaps. Now, here's the deal. You know, I used to do market research in my corporate life, and I love research, and I love qualitative research more because you get at the whys. But after seeing all these 7 power gaps, I said, let me do a survey. Let me really get out of the sphere that I'm in, put it out there everywhere I can, and see if the prevalence of these gaps is what I think they are. And I did a survey. About 1,200 people so far have completed it. Of the respondents, 98% of women and 90% of men are experiencing at least one of these gaps, and 75% are facing 3 or more. And if you're facing these, you just can't thrive at the level you want to. Okay, interestingly, the one gap, I'm not going to tell you that yet. I'll tell you that in a minute. Here are the 7 gaps. And the percentages are now of that 1,200, the vast majority are women. So I had about 90 men complete it. So that's not quite statistically significant. So what I'm giving you here is what the women have shared. The percentage of women who are saying, yep, I have this gap. Yes or maybe. If you say maybe, you have it. Trust me on that. So, yes or maybe are the percentages you're seeing here. Number 1, not recognizing your special talents, abilities, and achievements. 65% have this. And I'm going to go into depth in a minute on what these mean. Number 2, communicating from fear, not strength. 70% are not communicating authoritatively. I'm seeing chats going on and I love that. And, you know, I would ask if this resonates or you have the gap, raise your hand or put that in the chat. That would be helpful for us to see if you would do that. Number 3 is reluctance to ask for what you deserve. 77% of the women who responded are reluctant to ask for what they deserve. Number 4, isolating from influential support. 71%. Number 5, acquiescing from saying stop to mistreatment, 48%. Number 6 is losing sight of your thrilling dream, what you thought you were going to do with your life. And now you're 35 or 40 or 50 and you thought, where's the dream? 76%. And number 7 is allowing the past to continue to define you, 62%. Interestingly, in the work I do, I really believe number 5 and number 7, there's many more people than this that have it. They just aren't aware that they have it. All right. So, have you ever said to yourself, why is it that I read so many self-help books and I still don't move forward? I mean, I've heard this so many times. I listen to podcasts, I do this, I go to trainings. Why am I stuck? And this is why. And my wish here for this program is what I say in all my training, breakthrough. I wish for you that you are a different person when you hang up from this call than you were when you started, a real breakthrough moment. But the reality is, we stay stuck because we don't take a different kind of action. As a therapist, I saw insight is incredibly valuable, but as a coach, what I see is action is more potent. It's great to realize, oh boy, my boundaries aren't good enough, or I can't say no to this person. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Action. It's action that changes our lives. Okay. So, and it's not just any kind of action, it's action that's brave, that makes you say, I'm scared to do this. I'm scared. Yep. That's the kind of action we're going for, that makes you think, if I can do that, I think I can do anything. That's where we're going. So now you know what the 7 gaps are. What I'd like to teach is the antidote of those, which I call the 7 brave pathways to career bliss. And they are, and we're going to talk about them in depth: brave sight, brave speak, brave ask, brave connection, brave challenge, brave service, and brave healing. Here we go. Again, as a reminder, what am I doing? Why do I have to get on this pathway, these pathways? Because you are going to experience yourself as someone who is more powerful, has more self-mastery, has more confidence, communication strength, relationship building strength. That's what you're going to get when you close these gaps. So here we go. Number 1, and so these are the brave pathways that close the gaps, is brave sight. So for each one, I'm going to give you some concepts to think about and then some steps. Okay. First, do you recognize how truly remarkable you are? That you're talented, that you're gifted, that you're valuable? Do you understand that? I want to tell you, I mean, one of the most sad things, frankly, is I have something called a career path assessment. Anyone can download it. I can give you the link to that. And it's 11 pages of questions I wish someone had asked me 30, 40 years ago. And if I had answered them honestly, I don't think I would have made a lot of the mistakes I made in my career. But what I see from it is people are writing every job they ever had, what they loved, what they hated, the greatest accomplishment, the greatest struggle, what they want to bring forward. And they're amazing. Every one of these people, so are you, but they don't see it. So when I say, what do you think you're great at? They're like, I don't think I'm really great at anything. And women shun saying they're great. And I'm going to talk in a minute about why this is. Well, I'll say it right now. Here it is. We live in a patriarchal world, particularly the business world. And in a patriarchal world, we split ourselves in half, and we all know what it means to be masculine. I'm putting that in quotes, and feminine. These are the rigid gender stereotypes that our society has told us we need to adhere to. So what is masculine? You could say it right now. It's strong, invulnerable, gets it done, right? Decisive. What is feminine? It's pleasing, malleable, soft, puts everyone else first, right? We know what this is. The problem is when you're stuck in these gender roles, you go underground, and what it shows you, and what the research shows, is girls start going underground at about age 12. Before that, they raise their hand thinking they're ready for that leadership assignment, or they want to be an astronaut, or they want to study STEM, and they know they're smart. At about 12 or 13, they go underground. They don't raise their hand for those leadership roles. They doubt themselves. They become quite concerned about social media and their self image and their body image, and it's not happening for boys. So, but on the other hand, a patriarchal world is damaging for men and boys as well, because they can't be vulnerable. They can't be emotional. They can't bring their whole self. I have a whole study on bringing your whole self to work. Okay, that was a little context. I think that women shun saying, I'm to themselves, I'm really great at this. Now, I'm not saying we run around and brag all over the place, but you got to know what you're great at. So I ask you, what are your natural capabilities and strengths? What are those talents and skills that came easily to you when you were young? So here's some steps. This weekend, what day is it? Today's Wednesday. This weekend, sit somewhere quiet, turn off the distractions, get a pad and paper in front of you or your laptop, and dimensionalize what are the 20 facts of you, the 20 most important, powerful accomplishments, outcomes you've achieved in your life. I don't care if it was when you were 10 or 15 or now, that you are most proud and excited about, that no one can refute. That's the thing. You know, we want to talk about facts, and this is true when you're looking for a job, when you're sharing your story on LinkedIn. These are facts, what you did, not, oh, I think I did it. You know, for instance, when I look back on that hideous last 2 years of my corporate life and the way I got laid off, which was so devastating, it took me years to get over that. But then I said, wait a minute, wait a minute. I did some great things as a VP there. I did some great things. What are they? I revitalized fading businesses. I brought in millions of dollars of new client work. I launched a Hispanic product. I did some great things. Fact. That's what we're looking for. So watch my TEDx talk, Time to Brave Up. It walks you through some of this. But let's start recognizing the 20 facts of you, how you are remarkable. Okay. Another way to do this is to look back on who you've always been. So I'm going to give you myself as an example. When I was 16, I was a competitive tennis player, went to the New York States in tennis. I loved to read. I was a writer. I was a journalist on the newspaper. I had a therapeutic ear. A lot of my friends at 16 would come and say, can I talk to you? I have a problem. It would be about a girlfriend or a problem with their parents. And I'd say to my mom, why are they asking me? I'm 16 or I'm 18. What do I know? But even back then, I had a therapeutic kind of ear. I loved to take chaos and turn it into order. It's just, oh, also, I'm a singer. I love to be on stage, even back then. But the thing is, I didn't know those were talents. So the minute I got my very first job out of college, I bailed. I bailed on who I was. I bailed on being a writer, a speaker. Look back in your early years. Now, a lot of people say, ugh, I had an unhappy childhood, or my parents really kind of thwarted me. Okay. But I'm pretty sure that there were some aspects of who you were and what you were gifted at that came out. So look at what those core passions are, those talents that you had that probably went underground. You know, just if I look at writing, yeah, I became a marketing copywriter. That's not the kind of writing I wanted to do. It's what I'm doing now, but I just didn't honor it. So I had a 18-year really unhappy corporate career pretty much. What are the critical dots and themes of your life? Oh, there's the link. Take my free career path assessment. It's a self-assessment. You don't get a score, but it's going to help you understand who you are and the gifts of who you are. Okay? Number 2 is brave speak. So, we have to start talking more powerfully and confidently about who we are, what we care about, what matters, and what we want to do. If you struggle with this, and again, women struggle. And one of the reasons is if you're assertive and confident as a woman, you're often called the B word. I mean, I've had that. I've had a senior vice president say, "You're a buzzsaw." And I said, "What is that? What do you mean?" He said, "You get it done where it needs to be gotten done." Yeah, but would he call the male director a buzzsaw? I don't think so. So you have to understand that there are challenges in our society. There's pushback, but what are we going to do? Sit back and not be confident? No, we're not going to do that. What I would ask you to think about, if you struggle with speaking authoritatively because you're afraid of the backlash, or it has gone badly for you, or your family didn't allow it, we're going to talk about that, what you learned in your childhood. I would ask you to look at what's at the root of why it's difficult for you to speak up powerfully. as a former therapist, I can't lobotomize myself. It got in. So I have a therapeutic lens, even in my coaching work. I can see where people have had trauma around all of this. Maybe it was a narcissistic parent who didn't let you challenge them. There's probably a reason. But let's take some action here. Yes, we can look at the root, but what we have to do is take action. Watch your language starting today. So the research shows that women apologize exponentially. They say the words, I'm sorry, exponentially more than men do. Watch your language. Watch your language in meetings, on your Zoom calls with groups. Where do you apologize? Where do you communicate weakly? And where are you showing a lack of confidence? Stop apologizing. Just unless you're truly sorry. But if you are, leaning over someone to grab a chair from their table, you're not sorry. I'm sorry. May I have that chair? You're not sorry. Say it only when you're truly sorry. You might say something like, excuse me, may I have the chair? Be so careful. Where do you weaken your message? Let's say you're in a Zoom meeting. Before it used to be we're around a table, we're having a meeting, and Fred speaks and Susie speaks and you want to speak. A lot of people say, I'm not sure this is right, but don't say that. Don't weaken your message because you're really broadcasting that people shouldn't listen to you. Say, wow, that was a really interesting concept. I'd love to build on that. I'm thinking that da 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 da. Agreeing when you don't. Now, I'm not saying we're going to run around just telling everybody to shut up or I don't agree, but don't agree with people when you don't. There's other ways you can, maintain a good relationship without going underground. And, don't stay silent when you need to speak. And if you're not in a position where it's safe to speak, then you got to get help. If there's mistreatment, if there's gender discrimination, if there's like what I went through, sexual harassment, you need outside help, a certain kind of help. And not taking credit where credit is due. This is very difficult for people where they're afraid that they're going to look like a braggart if they say, this is what I've accomplished. I would like you to look at that. And I'm really not saying that you need to brag all over the place. I'm saying you speak about it like fact. And I'm going to give you an example in a minute. Another thing I'd ask you to look at is who stopped you from speaking powerfully. We don't come out of the womb speaking from fear or shame or weakness. We learn it. Where did you learn it? I share this in a lot of trainings. My beloved mom, who's 96, who just recovered from COVID, and she is my staunchest supporter. I love her to pieces and she loves me to pieces. But I grew up not being able to challenge her. She's Greek. I don't know if any of you have a Greek mom. She's powerful. We always said she wore she wore the pants in the family and had 7 votes, while even my dad and the rest of us had 1 vote. But I grew up with a mom that if I said I don't agree, it didn't go well. And I said to her, because I was going to write about it in my book, and I said to her, Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm going to write about this a little bit. Are you okay with me saying it? And she was silent. I thought, oh no. And she then said, yeah, I would. I'd see how you would think that you couldn't challenge me. I grew up with the idea that authority is the expert. But I grew up not being able to speak up until I was 41 and studied therapy and got help, energy healing, therapeutic help. That's where the root of the tracheitis was, infection of my trachea because of the stress and the fear of speaking up. Where did you learn not to speak up? And then what are we going to do about that? Number 3 is brave ask. Okay, peeps, it's time to ask for what you need and what you want. Do you know that there's been a lot of research that women are so much more reluctant than men to ask for what they deserve? For instance, one study showed that 57% of men right out of MBA school negotiated their very first salary, the first job. And guess how many women did? 7%. 57 or 7. If you can't ask for what you need and want, you are going to be behind others, behind your own potential. It's time to ask. Okay? So the question is here, what do you want? What is it? Is it I am bored in my job and I really would like to move in this direction. Can you help me do that? I had one client when I was first starting out who said she was in marketing and she wanted to move to HR, and she went into HR and told them, would you help me get a degree and study HR and move into HR while I'm employed here? And they said yes. And I remember thinking, I never had the bravery to do that ever. Do you want a raise? Do you want more leadership responsibility? Do you want more help from your spouse? We all know COVID has been incredibly difficult for women, in many ways more so than men, sadly. I've written about that on my Forbes blog if you want to check that out. Do you need more help, man or woman? Do you need more help from your kids, from your family? What do you need? So identify it very clearly, and why it will help others if you get this kind of help, why you should have a promotion, why you deserve a raise, right? And then make a stand for it. But here's the thing, it's not an emotional stand. You got to build a case. So if you're looking for more at work, for instance, you've got to build a strong, compelling case and present that when the timing is right. Not when your company's just had a layoff over COVID, but you need to make the case with facts, with data, with metrics, with positive outcomes that you believe you can bring about. You've got to look at competitive research about competitive data about your salary. You can't just go in and say, it's time. I deserve a raise or a promotion. You have to make a case for it. And you want recommendations on LinkedIn, in your file, mentors, sponsors, high level people who have clout, who can open doors for you. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Um, you need to build a case. Okay. So think about what you really want and start building that case. Talking about mentors and sponsors, brave connection. Number 4. Do you have people in your corner who would do anything for you? A lot of people isolate. A lot of people do not have a network, and you can't have the success you want if you don't have a robust, helpful network. I mean, anything I've done, I'm looking at my book or my Forbes blog, came from the help of someone else. A recommendation to my agent, my literary agent, it all comes from other people. We can't hack it out alone, and you shouldn't want to, right? So let's look at this. 2 key things. If you isolate, I'd ask you to look at, why do you do that? Are you an introvert and the idea of networking makes you just want to cry? If so, check out Matthew Pollard's work. He's a colleague and a dear friend. He is an introvert himself and has overcome so much, and he has 2 best-selling books on introversion. Matthew Pollard, I'd check him out. But there's a lot of reasons we isolate. I run a business, and when it was not doing well years ago, you don't want to admit that. You don't want to share that often. So you isolate, and then you don't get the help you need. So it's time to start connecting. The very first thing you can do is go on LinkedIn. Whatever level of connection you're at, connect with 100 more people. Find great people who are doing things that are 100 steps ahead of you and share their thought leadership. Share, one thing I do is I have a dashboard for all of my social platforms. It's called Hootsuite. And I have a list of people I follow, people who are rocking it. It doesn't have to be just in career coaching or leadership, it's doing all sorts of things. And if I have nothing to say that day to share, I look at the list and see what they're tweeting and what they're sharing, and I'll share something of theirs. And by doing that, you're getting on their radar, you're building your network. Ask for recommendations on LinkedIn and get recommendations. Ask for and give, I'm sorry, give and get recommendations. So think of 5 people who you adore in your current role or your previous roles. And just as a random act of kindness, right? You go to their profile under the 3 little dots, more, it says submit a recommendation. Do it. Or just endorse them for skills. But a written recommendation is more powerful. Build it on LinkedIn and beyond. Just start. Reach out to 5 people and say, you're in a new juncture and you see that they're having so much success. And, would they mind getting on a 15-minute Zoom call? Now, if they're 1,000 steps ahead of you, or that's too much, 100 steps ahead of you, and, they have 5 best-selling books and they just launched another book, now probably not the time to ask them to connect. They're crazy busy. And don't take that personally if someone says no, but reach out to people that you think would be wonderful to speak with who probably has the time and the bandwidth to talk to you. Okay, so we said this. Reach out to people on LinkedIn 10 steps ahead of you who are doing what you want and be of service to them. Share their stuff. I've made a lot of friends on LinkedIn who have shared my stuff over and over. And I finally say, I just did it the other day. Want to hop on a call? That somebody had posted, who would you love most to have dinner with? The one person. And someone mentioned me, and I was so humbled. I jumped on a call with her. Why wouldn't I? Okay. So it's time to network up. I've done posts on this. Ivan Meisner, who in the US is a real networking expert, and he started the largest business networking organization in the country. He talks about how to network up to your idols. Check it out. Okay. It's time. You need mentors, sponsors, and ambassadors, people who are going to talk about your work um, because they love it. All right. We're getting there. Number 5, these are now the 7 brave pathways to closing these gaps, is Brave Challenge. Okay, here's the deal. Thousands of women and men are are acquiescing, meaning sitting back and not saying anything and not doing anything instead of saying stop to mistreatment, discrimination, gender bias, stereotyping. What are you accepting that needs to end? There's a story that I can't go into great detail because we don't have the time, but it's in my book, The Most Powerful You. I was sexually harassed. I had a very senior guy say to me, among a million other things, he wrote me an email. I'm having a party next Saturday. I'd really love you to come. And he's married. I'm married. And he says, I'd love to see you naked in the pool. And this guy could make or break my success in this company. Secondly, he was beloved. He was in the senior leadership cadre. He was not going anywhere. There was no way I could complain about him. But the crazy thing is, when I was laid off, I don't know when was this, a month after he sent that email, I'm I'm looking through all the stuff from my computer that I needed to save and needed to forward. And what do? I delete the email. I didn't know why I did that. I do know why, and it's in the book. But I want to tell you, I will tell you this. After about a few weeks of being devastated, another vice president who was laid off after 9/11 said she was going to a lawyer. And that idea was a life changer to me. And I had a friend who was a lawyer, and I said, Marnie, what do you think? And she goes, absolutely. I'm not the right one because I support employers. You need a lawyer that supports employees. Here's the person to go to. And I want to tell you, it ended very well, very well. And to have someone in your court who goes, yeah, there's something very wrong about this, it can be totally life changing when you've been victimized. So what are you accepting that needs to end? So what I'd ask you to do if you're facing mistreatment of any kind is not to just jump to knee jerk, I'm going to go to my boss. If your boss is a narcissist, you don't want to go to your boss. I know a lot about narcissism, sadly. If you need more help on that, I do have a 6-part training series. You don't want to go to the narcissist. I did that. Big mistake. You may not want to go to HR. HR is not your friend, and I don't mean that in any terrible way. They have a responsibility to toe a line. They're also supporting the success of the organization. You might need to see a lawyer. You might need to go to your outside mentor or sponsor, right? It depends. Might be that you need to work with a coach, but get clear on what has to change. Do the internal work to understand. Now, this might be controversial, but as a therapist, I learned this. We are 50% of every relationship, not more, not less. If you're getting mistreated, you need to look at in some way, am I attracting? I don't mean you deserve it. I mean, what are my boundaries? What am I allowing? Now, with this guy, I couldn't say no to him. He wanted me to travel with him on these boondoggles. I somehow made up excuses. No, I can't leave my kids. My husband travels. Ugh. But sometimes you just have to get legal help and say, this has got to change. I got a lawyer. I'm consulting a lawyer. Here's the case. Um, but I did allow it because I didn't know what else to do. So 2 years of this incredibly toxic environment. So I don't mean you deserve it. I mean get help so that you don't have to be. One woman in a talk I was giving raised her hand and said, "Can I ask you a question?" Yeah. She said, "I haven't had a job where I wasn't sexually harassed. Is it your idea or your opinion that I should grin and bear it?" And I said, "No, that's the opposite of what I'm saying. Grinning is smiling, is saying it's okay. Bearing it is tolerating it. So we need help. And again, it's usually outside help, but it's time to take a stand." I'd also ask you to look at what makes you scared about standing up for yourself. Now, in that situation, there's a legitimate problem. If I complain about him, he's going to drum me out of the organization. It's going to be bad. But sometimes it isn't that bad. And there are other reasons why we don't stand up. I mean, as I said, couldn't speak up to mom. I didn't know how to do it. So, how old is your fear? That's a great question to ask when you're having a problem that repeats, repeats, repeats. How old is this challenge? Where did I learn that it wasn't safe to stand up for myself? And then revise your idea of what it is. It doesn't mean you're all alone and you're going to be punished. You can get help. Okay. Number 6, brave service. So, again, this is the antidote to I've lost sight of the thrilling dream I had for my life. Where is it? So there's a wonderful book, The Energy of Money. If you struggle with money in any way, read this book, but it's much more than that. It's like a guidebook for life. It's a guidebook for how to create things and be brave and bring it into the three-dimensional reality rather than just thinking about it. And it's by Maria Nemeth. Amazing. And I remember reading this. I've read this book many times and had it for years. But she said this: people are happiest when demonstrating in physical reality what they know to be true about themselves, giving form to their life intentions in ways that contribute to others. This is 3 parts. I'll break it down. First of all, a lot of us have fantasies. Oh, I wish I started my own business, or I wish I were a vice president, or I wish this, or I wish I wrote a book. The problem is, are we demonstrating in physical reality? Are we taking the steps, the physical actual steps to make it happen? She talks all about the monkey mind, how bringing something from the metaphysical to the physical is hard work. It's dense energy. Are you demonstrating who you really are? Or let's say you've got a coaching business and you're broke. Is that demonstrating what you know to be true about yourself, that you're smart, that you're capable, that you're a good coach? Well, if not, then something's ajar and you need to change it. You need different kinds of action. Number 2, giving form to your life intentions. Such an important question. When you're 90 looking back, I say 90 because my dad lived to 93. My mom is still alive at 96. So maybe we'll have long lives. What do you want to have done? What do you want to have stood for? What do you want people to say about you? That's in my career path assessment. And most people are incredibly vague. I want to be a nice, thought of as a loving daughter, loving friend. No, I think you want more than that. I think you can't. Yes, that's awesome. And we want that. But what else? What do you want to have done? Finally, people are happiest when they're of service to others. I see it every day in the clients and colleagues and course members I work with. How can you be of service in a way that you're not? It just brings great joy, great meaning, great purpose. So here's the deal. To get back on the track to having a more thrilling life, reconnecting to that dream. Now, maybe it isn't, I'm going to go sing in a band, but the thing is, people say to me, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared I'm going to lose everything. I'm scared I'm going to lose my 401k. I'm scared I'm going to lose the security of a paycheck. So they won't even think about it. They won't even explore a tiny little bit. So you have to understand, you don't have to risk anything to just explore. So if you knew you couldn't fail and it would all work out, I believe this is a Tony Robbins question, but I love it. What would you just explore? So here's what I love to say: writers write, teachers teach. If you want to write, I can't tell you how many people have said, I want to write a book. Great. What are you writing? Oh, I'm not writing anything. You can't write a book if you're not writing. Write something, write a paragraph, write an article on LinkedIn, write a blog post. Okay. Start writing something. The point is, you need to become that person that you say that you want to be, and you don't have to chuck the baby out with the bathwater to do that. Don't wait to start doing ideal work. I have a client just the other day. She was working with the Amazing Career Project, my course, and there wasn't forward movement. We saw that. We both saw it, she and I. She came back for a session, and what she admitted was she really, really would love to get this certain certification in her field, but she had failed it. She didn't get it, failed it, I think, twice. But that's what she really wanted. So I said, let's make you succeed at this. Let's look at all the reasons why it failed. If that's what you want, let's make it happen. And she wrote me the next day, I'm so excited. This is what I really wanted, but I was thinking, oh, let it go already. Just get on the path. And I could see how just getting on the path to it opened up so many more opportunities. Start doing it in a risk-free way and start telling everybody you know what? I am thinking of starting a blip or launching a blop or volunteering or starting this cause, or I'd love to do some more nonprofit work. And there's two questions you ask when you're talking to people. You tell them your story, and then you say, do you have any ideas for me? And then after they give you their ideas, you say, oh my gosh, those are so helpful. Would you know of anyone else who'd be helpful to speak to on those ideas? And you won't believe what comes at you. Okay. So it's time now. It's time that you grow yourself and your skills. Don't just rely on what you already know. I just interviewed a woman in my Forbes blog, Fawn Germer, Pulitzer Prize nominated journalist, incredible. And she talks about how a lot of mid-career people's careers, jobs have just died on the vine. And they're scared to death to embrace the new technology, the new digital stuff, new stuff that's going to make them more valuable. And they keep talking about their experience from the past. And if you read her book and this article, it's sobering, but she's right. What people want is people who will add value going forward. And that isn't necessarily based on your past experience. So embrace learning, take a course, Coursera, edX. There's so many free courses. Up level your skill, and the opportunities are going to fly open, and you'll get over that lack of confidence that you have. All right, now we're going deep. This is the former therapist in me. Number 7, which is the antidote to allowing the past and past trauma to define me and shape me. It's brave healing. So this is a harsh, not a harsh, straight talking sentence. You are what your childhood taught you to be, unless you've unlearned it and healed it. You are what your childhood taught you to be. So, when I'm doing an initial coaching session with someone, we talk about childhood. What'd you learn in childhood? And it's incredible. It's all right there. They learned it in childhood, but they're 52 or 48. And that's why they don't think they're smart, or that's why they don't believe in themselves, or that's why they're scared to death to take any risk. It's right there in your childhood. So, what messages did you get? Now, I want to say this is not to blame your parents. Everyone is doing the best they can. Nobody gets out of bed and says, I'm going to blow it. But some of this is bad parenting. I can tell you that. If they don't understand what raising a self reliant, self-confident child requires, which is not that you hover and do everything for the child or tell them what to do when they're 15 or 18 or 25, or in a client's case yesterday, 42, one of my clients, and the parents are still involved, way too involved. What messages did you get, and what coping strategies did you learn to thrive in your family that just aren't serving you any longer? Did you face suppression? Was there a narcissist? And I can tell you what that is if anyone's interested. Was there emotional manipulation? Did you have to toe a line? Again, I adore my parents, and my father was kind of the light of my life. Um, but he was brilliant. He was a Phi Beta Kappa, genius IQ, and a photographic memory, and a scientist. And I'm none of those things. And he would look at my grades and they'd be all A's and an A minus. And this is what I remember. Good for you. Good going. And what happened there with the A minus? Well, what was the message I got? I had to be perfect. And, we talked about, well, I'm going to get to it. Let me do it right now. Tony Robbins, again, great question. Who did you crave love most from as a child, and who did you have to be to get it? That came from his documentary, I Am Not Your Guru. It was like a eureka moment. Instantly, I knew the answer. I had to be obedient for mom for the reasons we talked about, and brilliant for my father. Now, if my father, who's in heaven, were sitting here and I said, I felt like I had to be brilliant for you to love me, was it true? Of course, he'd say no. He'd say, I love every part of you. You didn't have to be brilliant. It doesn't matter if it's true, it matters that that's the message you got. And also, parents and other people don't understand what they're subliminally sharing. There's this, I think for dad, there probably was an unconscious wish for the A's because my father got all A's. He got only one C in his whole life, and it was psychology. But, if you're brilliant, you're getting all A's and it's kind of easy for you. You're probably wondering, okay, what's going on here? He didn't mean it. It doesn't matter that he didn't mean it. That's the message. Well, if you think you have to be obedient and brilliant to to succeed in life, you're not going to be happy. So, who did you crave love most from, and who did you have to be to get it? And I promise you, when you see that, you're going to have some incredible breakthrough moments. So, what's really important here is to understand your career and your life aren't just happening to you, you are co creating it. So, the very first thing to do is look at what chronically repeats. One of the stories I tell is I had crappy bosses, every job. And I was sitting with my friend who was over spending the weekend, and she goes, Kathy, I love you. I want you to know I love you, but how can it be that every job you have, and we were in our 20s, you have such a bad boss? And then she said, I wonder if therapy would help. And I was so hurt. Like, what? Ow! She was right. I didn't do well with authority. I didn't pick jobs very well. I didn't vet the boss. I co created it. And from the minute I got hip to that, the bosses were better until the last 2 years of my corporate life. What chronically repeats that's negative and hurtful? I want to leave you with something. We don't have time to talk about it, but I would like you to take my action style quiz. A few years ago, I noticed that there were different styles that were emerging in terms of how people perceive a goal and decide to move forward to the goal and their process for completing and achieving that goal. And I started studying that with the people that were coming to me. And what emerged are what I call the 6 dominant action styles. It's really interesting: the striver, seeker, pacer, researcher, challenger, and advocator. I have a quiz. You can see what your style is. The real thing is this: what emerged that surprised me is you can adopt a style in a company, in a field that is not your style, but you have to do it because that's what everyone is like. So in my companies, I had to be the striver, always striving for the goal. It didn't matter what I was learning, it didn't matter how important the goal was. Do it, check it off. I'm not the striver, I'm the seeker. And I'm the advocator. The advocator is similar to the striver, but they have to have something meaningful. They have to be advocating for something bigger than themselves to be happy. The seeker just wants growth, wants expansion. It's not about, I got to get to that goal. The pacer goes slow. They're going to go slow like a big turtle where if they're threatened, they go underground. They'll come back up. They'll keep moving. They'll get there, but it's going to be at their own pace. The researcher researches everything. Don't tell them just to do something. I'm going to go buy a coffee pot. They're going to research it. The challenger challenges. Why do we have to do it that way? Why do we have to do it on this timeline? If you're a striver and you got a challenger on your team, sometimes they really clash. Really know your style. And what you might see is, oh my goodness, I'm actually another style, but my job, my career doesn't support or value that. And then it's time to maybe look for something else, change your employer, find a culture that does honor your style. So, in the end, what we're asking here is you become the most powerful version of you, and then you will illuminate the world with who you are. Every one of you has amazing gifts and talents, and the world needs them so desperately. But you got to have more power and bravery to leverage those talents in the way you dream of. Are you ready? Are you ready for a thrilling career of significance? Why not you, right? Do you know that if you make $30,000, you're in the upper 1% of the world's population? I mean, and if you've gone to college, I don't even know what that percentage is. You have advantages, you have abilities. It's so time to leverage those. So, the very first step this weekend, when you go off, turn off your distractions and your devices, put a pad of paper in front of you, look at these slides. Which path speaks to you most? One of these is going to pop out. Do you need to see yourself more powerfully? Do you need to speak more powerfully? Do you need to ask for what you want? Do you need a better, more robust network? Do you have to challenge something that's wrong in your life that you no longer are going to tolerate? Do you want to do something more meaningful with your work? Or is there some healing that's required? Which one? And then what tiny step can you take? It is your time to shine. I hope this is helpful. 2 resources. My new book, The Most Powerful You. You can find it. It's on Amazon in the UK now. It came out in the UK January 7th. So there you go. That's the link. I do have a 7-day free Power Boost Challenge, which really distills it down and gives you some things to think about, powerful reframes that are going to help you, and action steps. Okay. And I do want to tell you quickly, I train coaches, and I have a program called the Amazing Career Coach Certification. Now, this year, this is the first time I've incorporated Matthew Pollard, my dear friend. I think I talked about introversion. He's also a business accelerator expert. He's run tons of conferences in Austin, Texas, where there's a lot of startups. He's done tons of work, and he on helping entrepreneurs and service providers, in particular, coaches and service providers, have rapid growth, rapid growth. So that's incorporated in my certification training. And that's the link. You can learn more about it. And I have a free webinar, 6 key steps to helping professional women thrive and building rapid growth in your business. You can download that for free. That's it. There's all my how to reach me. I think we're ready to go, right? For questions.
My camera's not come back on now. That's just
Oh
a pain.
no.
Oh gosh, I am here. I was just about to flash up my copy of The Most Powerful You as well onto the screen. I don't know
No.
what's happened there. Anyway, we'll carry on. One question I want to ask Kathy, if I can,
Okay.
whilst we just wait and see if there's any from our audience. So please do pop a question into the Q&A
Please.
box there.
Nothing is too small or too big. Ask it.
Excellent. So my question is, so of the 7 brave paths that you've got there, which would you say is possibly the most difficult to navigate, and what the best starting point?
I'm going to answer it differently, and then I will answer it. I think the most important one to start with is number 1, not recognizing your special talents, abilities, and gifts. If you don't see how you're gifted and talented, you're going to have an unhappy career. And so the best step, I think, is to take my free career path assessment or read the book, because it walks you through what to do. But had I understood that I wasn't just a decent writer, I was a good writer, that I wanted to be on, there he is. Fantastic. That, oh, good. That I love being on stage. I love speaking. I love training. I'll even give an example. My notes when I was a young person in my classes looked like this organized outline. I'm good at that. Organizing, training. Figure out what you're great at. And so I would start there. The most difficult, let me look at my list again. You know what the most difficult might be? Saying no to mistreatment. We don't know for instance, when you're being discriminated against, it's so crazy making. You're not sure what's happening. Is this bias? what the heck is this? You don't know, and you doubt yourself, and you're scared. So that's the hardest one, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. I think because if there's a lot to do with toxicity there, isn't there, as well? If you don't know, if you're used to a certain type of behavior, you're not going to spot it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay,
Good
so
question. No one's
Helene's
asked
got a question.
Okay.
If I can ask a question for the Q&A, do you have any tips to not stay frustrated with not being heard by your male colleagues, even if you're trying so hard to create a good communication and are known for being direct?
I love it. So whenever you have a question like this, I'm struggling with this group of people in my job. You need to take a step back and ask yourself a few questions. Number one, is this a chronic problem that I have? Because then we're going to start there. We're going to look at you. You're saying, is it Helene?
Yeah.
I'm known for speaking directly, but this person, this group of people doesn't like it. Well, then you probably have a problem with that group. And let me tell you, there's gender bias all over the place. There's narcissists all over the place. For instance, if one of them is a narcissist, and if anyone is interested, I'll give you the hallmarks of a narcissist. If the narcissist is in the room saying, this is what's happening, da 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 da, and this is what I believe, and you raise your hand and go, well, Fred, that's interesting. The research that I've done shows something different. Oh, ha, 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 ha. Narcissist doesn't dig that. You don't challenge the narcissist. So, Helene, you probably have a situation where these people are not open to you being straightforward and direct. And therefore, I would look at, do other people have this problem with those people? Or is it the way you're coming at those people? If it's no, everybody has a problem with these people, then you have a problem that maybe you should look at for a new job, a new department, work for someone else. Um, but you have to tease it out. What is the core problem? Is it me doing something, or is it no? They're just ah it's an IT. Yeah. When you're in a very male dominated world, I mean, look what's going on with the tech world. Women don't get a break. Women are funded, you know, infinitesimally less than men. That's what you got, Helene. Now, I don't believe that it's not a blanket statement. You can find a culture that's hipper than this. You can find a culture that supports women, and you can do a lot of competitive research about work culture. In the US, we have Comparably, and there's ratings about cultures. I think it might be time. Does that speak to you, Helene?
Give her a second to reply back. Yes.
Excellent. There you go. All right.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Any other questions from anybody else? Do continue to pop them into the Q&A or the chat box. There's something really interesting there as well, I think, in that question of kind of that you were coming to there, I think, is when I've experienced people like that in the workplace as well, or had those experiences, I had to learn, and it was a learning curve because I used to take it quite personally, and I'd get very stressed about it. I'd get anxious, I'd spiral. I'd throw my toys out of the pram, for a British expression that I often use with about my father downstairs. That somebody once said to me, just focus on what you can control. And as soon as I adopted that mindset, it made it a lot easier, because you can, with the greatest will on earth, you can be incredibly compassionate. You can try to kind of meet people halfway. You can break your own integrity and go all the way towards them just for the sake of appeasing somebody.
Yeah.
But it's not healthy. And
such a good
there's
point.
only so much you can do in life. And when we focus on the stuff that we can control as well, you do get a sense of achievement out of it. Not necessarily where you thought you were going to get it from, but it helps you to move on there as well.
I love it. And we're in a time in the pandemic where we don't control everything, and hang on to what you can control. I do want to amplify something you said. I used to be an incredibly defensive person and an incredibly sensitive person. Oh, sensitive? No, your boundaries sucked. That's what it was. Not sensitive. I was always like, why are they so mean? And why do they say that? And why are they so judgy? Oh, please. I had to grow boundaries. I had to strengthen myself. that you might not like. I've had people tear me down a bit on what I've said about feminism. Shut up, you dumb C word, I've gotten from 2 men on YouTube. Okay, people, I can't control that. And why am I eliciting comments on YouTube anyway? We have to build stronger boundaries that everything doesn't get in, you know?
Yeah, and if I can share to kind of build on that as well, just an example of my own from the last couple of weeks, and I should share it on, I did share it on LinkedIn and on Instagram last week, of where I was made to feel like I'd made a mistake over in a communication exchange. It was a contract that I was looking for my business, and the person that I was dealing with had failed to turn up for 2 meetings / calls twice, or been late. And their exact words were, "It's a shame that you don't want to explore this anymore." And I was like, no, it's not shame for me that I've actually discovered a really good thing right now and been able to go, thanks, but no thanks. If this is how it is before we've even started working together, then I'm choosing not to
And what a
continue that.
manipulator. What a
I know.
manipulator. Oh, you're just not getting it,
Yeah.
Steve. Too bad you're
Yeah.
not who you need to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh
Hanging up
gosh.
now.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we're not listening. It doesn't mean we're not taking healthy critique, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah.
What
We've got
else?
two other questions here. So, Kristen, so how do you handle others, especially women, that take things too personal? A colleague is always concerned about saying the wrong things, thinks others take it personal.
So I'd ask you this. Are you the manager of that person? Or so like if I were the manager of that person, I would say, you have so much talent here, and I'd like to work with you on something I see, which is I think you're a little afraid to speak authoritatively for fear of upsetting someone. Okay. If you're parallel colleagues, so Kristen, um, are you wanting to help this person just because you feel bad for the person? Or I'm really being serious. What's in it for you to help them? What is it that you're wanting? What's the outcome? Put that in the chat so I answer the question the way you want. Um, are they taking everything personally that you're saying? Is that it? We're waiting. We're waiting with bated breath. um, if I'll just speak. If you're saying that no matter what I say, this person gets defensive and takes things personally, I would say, to Steve's point, you're going to control what you can control. I don't think you can control their response, but I might sit down with them. And I mean, we are 50%. So if that, for instance, if that person is always taking everything personally, no matter what anyone says, then it's not you. It's nothing you're doing. It's them. They probably had some trauma in their childhood. But if it's just you, I might say, hey, Sally, can we sit down and talk? Um, we work on a lot of projects, and she's afraid of what others will say, not you. Um, this is hard because when we want to help other people and they don't want our help or they didn't ask for our help, it's hurtful. So if you're really close and you have that kind of relationship, um, maybe you could say, you want to, let's have a chat. I do see, because you tell me that this hurts your feelings, and I'm thinking, frame it that I heard what that person said, and I didn't think it was a hurtful comment. Do you want to hear what I think he meant? You could do it that way, but I would be careful. When I became a therapist, I was therapizing everybody. Hey, let me tell you what I see. People get mad, people get hurt. But if you want to frame it that way, I know that upset you, that meeting, but I saw it differently. You could try it that way. I
It's
hope
good
that's helpful.
advice that somebody's used that with me in the past, and it was very helpful.
Oh, good. Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And time for one more question. Helene's got another one. So, do you have any more tips on how to train to communicate from strength? She says, it started already, but any new tips are always welcome.
So I would definitely read my book, Power Gap 2, Communicating from Fear. What would be the best tip that I didn't talk about? Well, what keeps coming to, oh, Helene, great. What keeps coming to mind is, oh, that's so great. Did you get suppressed when you spoke confidently? Did you? If you did, then we have to heal that. And sometimes that's therapeutic work. Were you ever told, shut up, stop shining the light so brightly? I would ask you to look at that. If it's not that, maybe it's also you got pushback as you grew up. I mean, I got, as I said, a lot of pushback. So what you have to look at is, okay, where'd that pushback come from? When was any of it constructive? And actually, I am coming across too strident. Let me give you an example. Because I didn't know how to speak up for myself, but I had a big job, I did it the wrong way, and I'd leave body parts in my wake. My sister called me a bully. She wouldn't call me that anymore. So that power thing that we're talking about, sometimes we just don't know how to do it, so we do it too stridently. And what I realize is some of the most powerful stuff I say is very gentle,
Mm.
but it gets across. So you might want to look at, and again, I don't want to, lay blame on you, but if you're struggling and people are saying, ah, strident, you might want to practice saying it a little differently. Role play it with someone. Hey, I said this, and I said it 3 times, and boy, did people take it badly. Um, Role play. My dad used to say there's 7 different ways to say everything. He's right. So maybe say it differently if it's really a struggle for you and you think that it's not landing the way it needs to. I'm going to leave you with this. Human beings are incredibly frail, defensive, insecure, vulnerable. Everybody is. I mean, everybody wants validation. I learned this as a therapist. If I'm going to get through to the person who's a pedophile sitting here or someone who hits his daughter because she doesn't respect him, I can't hate the guy or the woman. I've got to find a way to love you because you're frail and fragile. So find a way to love the person and go from that. And you can still be strong, but remember, people are very, very frail and fragile.
Yeah, especially right now.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
I've cried over things. The TV isn't working. We're falling apart. I hope it's helpful, people. Steve, thank you for having me. I really hope people find this helpful.
I'm sure they will, and thank you so much for your time as well. And I do have the book here that I read. It's a fantastic book, and thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. It's really great to have you along. There'll be more live episodes like this coming up across the year. The next one is happening at the start of March for National Career Week here in the UK, with previous guest from season 2, Catherine Jennick, founder of What's Your Strength. So she's going to be sharing basically for you, Kathy. She created I have it with me, it's downstairs, a card game for young people to sort out, which helps them to understand what they're good at. And then when they turn the cards over, it's got inspiration for careers that they might want to look at. And as a result of everything that's happened over the last 12 months and people having either career crises or thinking about what they might want to do instead, she's developed an adult version.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
So she's going to be talking about that. So please do join me for that next time. And the new season of the podcast, the reason I'm wearing my rainbow t-shirt is going to be exclusively guests from the LGBTQ community, and that will start next week. So that's my little plug for things as well. So it was fantastic to see you, Kathy, and thank you again to everybody for joining. And I will speak to everybody and see them soon.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, bye.